Larry put a new battery in it a couple months ago, thinking it was, and it wasn't.
You
It's
need to
still
replace
slow.
that with an atomic clock.
Something
It
that's,
sets itself.
something that's,
That's what this watch does. It sets itself every night.
yeah. Something that we don't have to change about every month, and 2 months, about every, I think it goes, yeah.
Yeah, remind me to actually adjusted it myself
It is, it's just a pack.
for the daylight saving.
Somebody did that, that was good. At least it's not 5 o'clock.
5 seconds.
Okay, I don't have a gavel.
Would you like a gavel?
Yes. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Everyone please stand, face the flag, recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Welcome, everyone, to the Redevelopment Commission meeting tonight. Start with the approval of minutes of the last meeting. All should have got a copy of that in the board pack. And do I hear any corrections?
Well, having read the minutes, I would make a motion that we approve them as submitted.
Mike makes a motion.
Second?
Who seconded that?
I'll second
Jeff.
that, yeah.
Jeff seconded that. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The minutes are approved as submitted. And moving right along, and new business. The first thing on the agenda is Resolution 2023-11-01, authority to execute the Economic Development Agreement with West Hill Development. Never heard of them.
Yes, you have a resolution in front of you that has the attached economic development agreements. You'd be approving the form of the economic development agreement, and then secondly, approving the economic development agreement after that. The economic development agreement, as it relates to the third shell building that we're currently working with West Hill on, 30,000 square feet of that shell building is currently occupied. It's a little over 100,000 square feet in total size, which leaves roughly 70,000 square feet unoccupied at the current time frame. The intent of this economic development agreement is to incentivize that construction of that shell building, is that we would enter in and more or less lease the remaining 70 acres until it is fulfilled. 70,000 square feet until it is filled, and or the 2-year per the agreement is up. So it would basically be a monthly agreement paid out monthly over the next 24 months. I think it was like 42,000. Not sure if they had the month fee in here. The total agreement is for $1 million over 2 years, so 24 months. Thought they had the dollar amount in here, but might be in one of the other documents.
The copy I have on paragraph 3.03,
Yes.
it's construction and completion of the project expected to be not less than, and then it's blank.
Is it blank? Okay, we'll have to fill that in. So
Yes, we will.
the agreement more or less is 24 months, $1 million over 24 months. That gets reduced as the property is leased out. So if tomorrow someone came in and leased out 30,000 square feet, then that would be reduced by the square footage that was leased.
And so on throughout the next
So on
24
throughout the
months.
24 months.
Okay. And what is that amount? Do you have any idea what that,
I swore I saw it in here somewhere.
because the other document also had that blank.
Might have been in the master lease that goes to the building for I could probably figure it out real quick.
We'll take a 10-minute recess.
Almost $42,000 a month. 49.
So you'll fill that in on the,
Yeah, so there's a lot more, so this,
yeah.
like usual, this is the first step, right? So first step is you would approve this resolution approving the form of the economic development agreement. Secondly, you would approve the economic development agreement. And then the next resolution, this goes before the city council for their approval. And then it goes to the building corp for the approval of the master lease and then the sublease agreement, which would be between them and West Hill. So a couple of more board meetings, a couple more steps to go through. We've got a public hearing on December 4th, at which point the second resolution you're approving is just the advertisement of the public hearing. Will come back December 4th, at which point you will approve the sublease of that facility. And the board, building corp will also have their master lease and the sublease to approve. So we'll have to schedule a building corp meeting. We'll schedule that for sometime after December 4th, after the public hearing. They'll approve their portion, assuming the city council approves their portion, Redevelopment Commission approves their portion, and then it will be finalized.
We both have to approve
Everyone has
before we
to.
do.
No, the only thing that needs to be done is that I don't believe we would want to approve, sign the lease prior to the public hearing. So the public hearing
Right,
has to
right.
happen on the 4th.
Right.
So we could have the building corp meeting on the 4th, but because our meeting's at 4 o'clock, it probably just makes more sense. We'll try to schedule it like on the 5th. And then they can sign both leases on the 5th. West Hill will sign their portions of the leases, and then it'll be complete. So assuming that you approve your documents today, the council and you both approve your documents after the public hearing on the 4th, and the building corp approves and signs the leases, the documents will be complete.
All right. We are passing this,
So you're passing the resolution.
subject to the approval of the other two organizations.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to, you're gonna approve your piece, and then if they don't approve their piece, then it doesn't get finalized.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you're approving this resolution, which is the form, then you're going to approve the economic development agreement, then you're going to approve the next resolution, which establishes the public hearing for the lease agreements on December 4th. We'll come back on the 4th, assuming that you approve all of that. You would approve after the public hearing the lease agreement. That lease agreement will go to the building corp. They'll approve their portion. And I believe the lease agreement has to go before the city council as well. So the city council has to approve their portion too. So lots of approvals yet to come. But you would make your approval first, which kickstarts the process, and then we'll go through the calendar.
So
complete.
Dave, could you get all this right in the paper so I can read it and know exactly what's going on? This is
And I can-
confusing.
I'm gonna need a flow chart.
I do have a calendar. I'll send you guys a calendar that has the meetings, so maybe that would help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just,
I had
you
asked-
got that, George?
I have that.
All right, good.
I had asked for that after Randy sent me the documents. I said, I'm following all these in my head, but I'd really like to see it on a piece of paper so I know how you feel. So he did send me it on a piece of paper so I can keep it all straight.
Fantastic. Okay. And you have to fill in the blanks on it.
Yeah, once we sign everything, once it's all finalized, we'll fill in the dates and the dollar amounts.
Yep.
Mayor, do you
Okay.
have any comments about this?
Yeah, I'm certainly in support of this agreement with our development partners. This is actually an incentive for the third shell building. We've had two previous incentives on the first and second shell building that the return to the city has paid off. We also have, obviously, a development with the, an agreement with the developers for the actual tech park itself. So these agreements with our development partners have been longstanding, have paid off handsomely, And we feel like the investment in ready-to-occupy shell buildings is the absolute best incentive that we can provide to someone coming to look to move into our community, which has happened, as you saw last week, or someone who is in our community that wishes to expand in our community. So, yeah, I'm obviously in full support of this.
So this shell building will be like the others that have already been built, they'll be expandable, so forth?
This one is already built, it's 100,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It's being occupied by Mentor Media. Is it 30,000 square feet that they're occupying? So this would be the 70,000 that remains unleased. We are covering until it's leased.
And Dan could answer any building questions you might have.
There is room, and the building is, I'm sorry.
Dan Robinson, West Hill. The building is designed, the north wall, end wall is removable, and the lot that it's on will accommodate at least another 30,000 square feet, which would bring the building to 131. If we make an L-shaped building out of it, we could put pretty easily 50,000 more on.
Well, the reason I raised the question is, do we need to make this agreement expandable as well as reducing by occupancy? For instance, if somebody takes another 50,000 square feet, some customer comes along and wants to expand on that building. Do we need to make provision for that so we can do it? We can be flexible, is all I'm asking.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, and honestly, we had not talked about that possibility. I guess we'd assumed that if somebody came along and said that we were going to have an agreement with them in place ahead of time, and nothing would be necessary.
Yeah, I mean.
I guess the possibility would exist that if we get another partial or near full, that, the city may say, we want more available space. That's a possibility too, so.
Yeah, to answer your question, Tim, and kind of what Dan is alluding to, if it's someone who's coming in and saying, I need another 50,000, can you add that on? I think that agreement in itself, we may
Would
contribute
suffice.
as, we may have a different type of incentive that goes along, but it wouldn't be this one, because they are occupying. This is purely us leasing space that's unoccupied, that will roll off as it's occupied. If we were to go back to them later and they filled this 70,000 square feet and they said, hey, we could do another shell building, or maybe we add on to this one, that 50,000, and try to lease it out, then I think at that point, we'd enter into another agreement. So wouldn't be any reason to try to add an extension.
Okay.
We would just address that when the time
Yeah.
came.
It could almost be viewed as recruitment versus expansion.
Yeah.
And then also, just FYI, we are in current negotiations with two commercial realtors to sign a listing agreement. We're real close to that signatory, to try to market that 70,000 square foot to limit your exposure and ours. So, okay, any other questions for me?
I don't think so. Well, thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is the existing Mentor Media has expressed interest that if the demand dictates, they would take that additional square footage or some of that square footage as well. So it
that's a
may
possibility.
just be an expansion of who's in there already,
Yeah.
as well as potentially someone new for the remaining square footage.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions?
Any comments?
Comments?
I'm comfortable making the motion unless I hear any more questions or concerns. I'll move we approve resolution number 2023-11-01 as presented.
Okay. George makes a motion to approve 2023-11-01 as presented. Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Mike makes a motion to second that. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion is approved as presented. Thank you.
Step 2.
Step 2.
Yeah, step 2 is approving, so you approve the form of the economic development agreement. You have the economic development agreement before you. So my recommendation that you approve the economic development agreement. Obviously, there's some other steps that we need to complete prior to it taking effect, but this would kind of be that next step.
I should say those things we mentioned, the fill in the blanks will be completed.
Yep. Once the master lease is signed
The master.
through the building corporation,
Very good.
then those will be filled out.
Okay. So, any questions on this? Pretty much, this document is contained in the previous resolution that we just approved. So, if there's any questions, now is the time. Comments?
Now that we have the authority, I move to approve the agreement with West Hill Development.
Okay. Jeff makes a motion to approve the economic development agreement with West Hill.
I'll second that.
And George seconds that. Okay. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approve the economic development agreement with West Hill Development. Okay. Moving on, it's in resolution 2023-11-02.
Yeah, so this is the resolution proposing the sublease and the notice of the public hearing notice that will happen on December 4th. And so you're just approving more or less the form of the sublease and then the public hearing notice. The master lease and the sublease will go before the building corporation, after which we'll approve our portion of the sublease agreement. But until that time, you're just approving the form. So we're not approving the sublease agreement today. We're just approving this resolution, which approves the proposed sublease and then the publication of the public hearing that will be held on December 4th.
Okay.
So Jeremy, in essence, in the first two resolutions, we have stated our intended desires.
Yes.
And with this third one, we are offering up to the public a chance or an opportunity to speak for or against, or at least hear what we want to do.
On December 4th.
Nothing
December
more,
4th.
nothing less.
Yep, on December 4th, yep.
Okay.
And
To
there'll
keep it
be-
simple.
Yep, and then there's other boards that have to do their approvals.
Right.
Yep, so this is just kind of the first step.
I move to approve resolution 2023-11-02.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have,
Did I say that right? Yep. Okay.
yes.
Yep.
We have a motion to approve by Jeff, the resolution 2023-11-02, and seconded by Mike. Okay, any further discussion? Questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution 2023-11-02 is approved as presented. Okay. And we move on to the sublease agreement.
So that was just in your packet. You don't have to approve it. I just wanted you to see it. You will approve it at the December 4th meeting. But I did want you to have an opportunity to look at it now because it will be presented to you on the 4th.
There's the 42,000.
Yeah, number 2.
Yeah, I
Yep,
thought
item
it-
2, there it is.
Didn't
Thought
see
it was
that
in there
before.
somewhere.
No action on this, Jeremy?
No action.
No.
Okay.
No, any questions, though? Comments?
And that 42,000 is payable to whom?
It'd be West Hill
Okay,
Development, Inc.
gotcha, just making sure. Okay,
Or LLC, sorry, West Hill Development LLC.
Got to get the right acronyms in there.
Two.
Okay, so, anybody has any questions or comments, we can do it now. Now we have this information before us, and we'll see it again when the rest of the groups have, the other committees and the city council have reviewed theirs and approved it. Okay? So, that brings us to the next item on the list, and that's the bid.
Yes, the Board of Works, the last Board of Works opened up bids for Sheldon Street improvements. There was, part of this bid was for work to be done on Sheldon Street, and we had an alternative bid for streetlights. There was only one bidder, that bidder was G&G Hauling. Aaron Ott, our city engineer, reviewed the bids, and it was in conformance with the bid documents and the bid process. It is my recommendation that we approve only the base bid in the amount of $300,722.30, so that we can get that contract presented to you. This will be paid out of the Redevelopment Northern TIF, and will include new curb work, on-street parking, striping, and sidewalks as part, or as along that Northwest Townhomes project behind Orthopediatrics.
Okay. Is there any problem with accepting one bid?
No.
Okay, just want to clarify that for the record.
No, we went through the bid process, did all the advertisements as required. We had some other people pick up documents and come to the bid meeting, but they chose not to bid.
Very good. So we're clear on that. Okay, any questions on this? Jeremy's suggesting that we approve the primary bids and not the additional for the streetlights, okay, at this point.
and we can put those streetlights in at a later date. Okay, is there a reason why you didn't want to do them now?
Primarily because they were a lot higher than what we anticipated.
Okay,
What's a cost?
okay,
I don't have the funds in the budget to approve this contract with those streetlights. The streetlights, based on the engineer's estimate, was supposed to be, I want to say like 200-some thousand. So it was almost 50% higher than what was anticipated by the engineer's estimate.
okay. If we do the base contract, Jeremy, will they go ahead and put in the infrastructure for those lights, the electric?
We will have that conversation. If there's some value to do that, then we will look at doing that.
In
yeah.
case at a later date?
We had talked about that in the pre-bid meeting, that if we don't go with the alternative, would we do a change order to do some conduit? I will talk to the contractor about whether or not there's some value in doing that. It's gonna really, in my opinion, and I can talk to them, we'll talk to them, but it's gonna be, if all of it was gonna be bored anyhow, there may not be any value to that. If it wasn't gonna be bored, and there's some areas where you could save some money by just pulling wire, then maybe it makes sense to put conduit in. But if we come back later and do this project and whoever the person is just gonna bore it all in anyhow, then it may not be of any value.
I would like to ask G&G Hauling
Yeah, they are.
if there's anything we're missing here that, why we
No,
should.
I think, some of it was cheaper to open cut, so we did figure to open cut, but I mean, the directional drilling has come down a lot in its cost, I think it just depends upon, from a budget perspective, I could see it see it being a good thing of getting that conduit, especially when we're doing new sidewalks, if we're getting the conduits underneath the sidewalks, where for the future conduits are stubbed in, because it's really the light fixtures that are what's really expensive. I mean, the price on them is really went up.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure that we do get that in there if we can, because.
Yeah, we can do change
Streetlights,
order.
I feel, are important. They add a lot of character and safety, and they're worth having.
But during the construction, it might be important to have that put in for the future addition of those lights,
Well, I mean,
some kind of lights.
you guys are the board, so if you tell me you want the streetlights in there, you want to approve that alternative, then I'll have to look at it. We may have to do an additional appropriation, but it's not about having the money to do it, it's about having the money in the budget to do it. It's 450-some thousand. I
Yeah,
thought it
I'm-
was a little high for the number of lights that we were doing. So it was hard for me to swallow that cost. But, you know, if it's something you think is absolutely necessary, we can look at how to make that happen.
I'm not suggesting,
I,
uh,
I'm not saying you are, I'm saying, some of the conversation is saying you want the streetlights. Well, it's not a matter of can it happen, it can happen, it's how it happens.
right.
I think aren't what you're saying is making it ready for, but not put the streetlights in.
Right, if the cost is, you feel high or prohibitive at this point, at least we could do the infrastructure part, so when
Yeah,
that day
we've talked to,
comes.
that can be done, like I said, we talked about that at the pre-bid meeting, because that was one of the questions that came up was, well, if you choose not to do the alternate, would you do some conduit? And we said we would, talk about that. See, we can do a change order to add some conduit, assuming that the price is reasonable to do that. I mean, I'm not going to spend $100,000 to add conduit. I'm gonna say, no, it goes back to the cost. So it's gonna come down to, yes, I want to do that. I think it's reasonable to do that, but at the same time, it has to be cost effective to do that. If we come back later and say we absolutely are going to do streetlights, and we rebid it out like 2 years from now, maybe it's all directional bore, and then the conduit is of no real value. I don't know, but, so there has to be some value in doing that. And we'll talk to the contractor about what that value is.
Let me ask, where is this going from 300 north?
Yes,
South towards,
north,
it's going north.
all the way up to State Road 15. So as Sheldon Street comes out of the roundabout, heads north, next to the Coles development all the way up, as it connects back into 15. So the intent was to run this, we're striping the whole road. The road is not striped. So there'll be lane markings, turn lanes, it'll be striped. We're doing some additional curb bump outs and on-street parking by Northwest Woods, and running sidewalks that connect to all the development. Right now, the sidewalks stop short of the Northwest Woods, so the sidewalks will run all the way up. So all that's in the base bid. We separated the lights because I was a little concerned at what the cost of the lights might come back at, having done a number of these projects. I didn't want to throw out the project that we've worked on if we couldn't do the lights. So I separated them, that way we can make a choice if the lights came back high.
How many lights are you talking?
25.
Okay.
So it's almost like $18,000 a light. It's really expensive.
And that's what made sense at the Board of Works, and that's why we approved didn't approve the alternate bid.
Yeah.
But you have a good point about lights, but we approved the.
And cost, I mean, material costs, and I'm not, I mean, Kerry said it all, and I'm not saying that it's not a fair bid, I'm saying the cost right now, to me, doesn't merit that kind of expenditure. Now, if you tell me otherwise, then we'll figure out how to do it, but most of the time, on these other projects we've done, and I realize inflation, all that, but most of the time, we're somewhere between $7,000 to $9,000 a light Here, we're almost double that price.
Why were they so much more? Do we know?
I mean, some of it's just the cost of, I mean, Carrie could,
Of course, we don't do the electrical work, but we got multiple electrical bids, and the ones we got were within a few $1,000s of one another, but I think some of it is, there's a specific light that they specify, so it stays consistent with what's happened down 300 to the tech park. Well, when you have a captive market, they know you can only buy it from one place.
it's a single vendor.
So it's a single vendor, so you'll have one place to go.
So they're taking advantage of that?
Well, I don't know that.
You don't have to answer that.
When we see the price, we thought the same thing, it's like, wow. Because we just bought them.
Yeah,
in
for the other two
Or
projects,
in the tech park not that long ago, and on the 300 North, we put these in two other
two others.
projects for the city, so it's just like, wow.
And
Which
maybe,
I know a lot of that stuff has really gone crazy from a price perspective. When you have the projects going on like they are right now, demand is really high. And, I think they're struggling with production. I don't know I forget what the lead times were, but I imagine they're extensive. So, it's just, it's part of all this funny money that's in the system, that inflation that is causing those particular items. When you get locked into a particular vendor, I think whether you rebid it and you say all alternative, it makes it to where they have to be competitive then.
Are we locked into that particular light? Can't we just say, okay, you guys are,
we absolutely can, and maybe that's where we go back to the drawing board and do that. I'm not saying that we can't rebid this out for another project. I'm saying at this point, we had an agreement with the developer that we would get this project moving. We bid it. The main portion, they want lights too, don't get me wrong, but the main portion of this project is the road work.
Okay.
My recommendation at this point is to approve the road work. We can go back and talk to Carrie and talk to Aaron about maybe we do rebid it with other options for lights.
a different style of
Different
light?
style.
Light's light.
It is, I mean,
And I know what,
continuity and look
I get it.
and all
I
of
get
that
it.
kind of tie in.
It's got the
I mean, I
aesthetic
was in a
value.
design
aesthetic
business,
value.
I get it, so.
So, but at that price, quite
At that
frankly,
price,
if
is
that's
it
what's
worth it?
getting us hung out to dry, then maybe we do look at some alternatives.
Yeah. And I guess that's all I'm saying. I don't wanna hold this up, I wanna get it going. But I do think lights are important, and if they are a little different, that wouldn't bother me. So,
Understand.
since I'm the one that made a fuss, I'll make a motion, we approve your recommendation to bid out the base.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the dates.
I'll second that, and I appreciate you, Jeremy, your efforts to
Yeah.
explore the lights and what could be done there, but I'll second the motion on total base bid amount, 300,722.30.
Okay. Jeff makes a motion to second the base bid at $300,722.30. And any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion is approved for the bid as presented. Okay. Thank you, that was a good discussion. We'll see what we can do. Meeting schedule.
Yeah, you have the 2024 calendar in front of you. There's some holidays we've moved around. We are setting this up for 2 meetings a month. So as they would be needed, we would have them otherwise. So we kind of have that mid-meeting in there. If we get some things that we need to get taken care of quicker, we can have that meeting. If not, we can cancel it like we've done. So
I like that.
it just gives us some flexibility.
Yeah, This past year, we've only had one or two. of
One or
those.
two, yeah,
Is
yeah.
all we've had on the second, for the second meeting of the month. So it's not a big burden to anybody, hopefully.
Is that gonna work with your schedule, George?
I believe so.
Okay.
Remember to hang around.
Sorry. One to clarify.
So they would be set up as the first and the third Monday, except as noted by holidays. There's one week that there was a holiday in that we didn't have a second meeting for that month, just because moving it either way would leave us like a week back-to-back meeting, so it wouldn't make a lot of
In
sense.
a short month.
Short month, yeah.
So, yeah.
In January again, April and September, it's second and fourth, right? That's
Yep.
the asterisk, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay,
Do we need to approve this, or is this just
Yes,
for our information?
you would approve this, and then that would
we'll publish
go
it.
on as published calendar for next year's
Okay.
redevelopment commission.
Okay. Any objections, these dates? Okay.
I'll move to approve the schedule.
George makes a motion to approve the schedule as presented.
And he'll be here at every meeting. I'll second.
Mike seconds the motion. Okay. Are there any further questions?
Comments?
Comments? I'm enjoying the comments more than, okay.
Gotta have some fun.
Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The calendar is approved as presented for next year, for 2024. Okay. And then we have the, is it the three-year plan? Three-year, title of this thing? Three-year recertification,
Yes.
sorry.
So you have, and you don't have to vote on this, this is just the recertification that was sent to the state. We were actually on a 4-year recertification. The state changed some rules down there. They set a meeting with us in August and said, hey, you need to recertify this year, and it's due November 1st.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up there. So this is our recertification that was submitted to them, minus, as part of the new recertification, they wanted a third-party impact study done. I have talked to a couple of professors at Grace College, and they have agreed to do that third-party study for us, and they are actively working on that. So once I have that, I'll also submit that to the state for our recertification. So this is just for your information. It is redacted. I can send you the non-redacted, but for the public consumption, it's redacted as per the state requirements, yeah.
Per state requirements.
Yeah.
Wow.
By the way, there's a spelling error.
What? Nonsense.
Page 11, that presents.
Presents, presents, well, you know, same thing.
Virtual. Baby in your world.
I gotta tell you, Jeremy, that is one good-looking sign.
Looks good.
So,
Okay. Any questions about this? Doc? Oh. Any comments from Mr.
Tim, I
Mayor?
just publicly want to thank Jeremy for the work he's done on this. Recertification of the tech park is a very important step to maintain our ability to draw increment from state tax dollars that are generated within the park. And, we've got a $5 million cap on that. We're a little more than halfway, I believe. But most importantly, take some time and go through that. It's really almost a diary of what we've done since 2012 with the success that we've had, and again, what you all have had. And it's important to recognize the work you've done. It's distilled and boiled down in this 17-page report. It also gives credibility to what we're trying to do with the third shell building as far as the incentive there to try and with the developers partnership to get that occupied. So I know you didn't have to take any action on it, but I think this has really been important for me over the last 12 years. And as Jeremy has worked hard, as you all have worked hard, the fruits of a lot of what we've done are in this 17-page report. So it's light reading.
Well done,
Well,
well
it
done.
certainly gives us, gives you a really good idea of the investment we've made and return on our investment. If you've gone through there, I think it's, we've created like 450 some jobs in that industrial park. We spent about $5 million in infrastructure and land acquisition. With our partners, you can see the capital investments that were made, not just their capital, but also the company's expenditures, investments that were made in there. So really gives you a good idea of, yeah, we've put a lot of work and we've made a lot of investment, but we've gotten a pretty good return.
Big return. And if you look at the jobs schedule in this thing,
Yeah.
just doing the math, from 2019 when we started, the number of jobs that were out there versus how many we've added, we've almost doubled the number of jobs
Yeah,
in 4 years.
Well, and that includes the 2020, the pandemic, where it was pretty much flatline.
We only added
Yes.
3 that year.
Yeah. So I feel like, we would be even in a better position had, that whole year of chaos didn't occur. But, yeah, we've certainly seen a lot of success. And a lot of that comes from the partnership that we've had with Westhill. And putting those investments in those buildings is huge. Getting people to come to your community is probably the hardest thing to do. And if you don't have something to show them, it's even harder. So the shell buildings have been tremendously successful in getting people there.
I agree. It's been a tremendous asset
Yep.
to our community.
Jeremy, this is a state requirement that you do
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
Okay, so information for private sector and public, state and federal, what are you doing? What have you done?
What have you done?
Okay.
We're
Yeah, good.
giving you money. What are you doing with it?
Exactly, I like that.
What have you
Okay.
done for me lately?
Okay,
So just for your information, read through, I can send you the non-redacted if you would like. You'll see the totals, you just don't see the individual company information.
There is some information on this part that I dispute. But I'll talk to you offline on that.
All right.
I was involved in that.
In that, okay,
Not quite accurate,
all right.
but it's minor. The whole report is really a nice summary of what the heck we. What's the minute?
Did they? Bring those back.
Somebody go catch that truck.
They're in order to replace the one downtown.
Yeah, the bases are rotted out on them, yeah. We don't want to put those out there. Okay,
We'll
so.
make you a good deal on them if you need them, North
Claims.
County.
We're not buying those guys.
No, we're not.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
That's a lot of work and
Yes, thank you.
nice, real nice summary to hang on to. Okay, moving right along, we have the claims.
So we have a few claims, a couple of NIPSCO claims for the Marsh Building, one for $533.14, one for $369. Huntington National Bank is for oversight on bonds for $250. My subscription to the Fort Wayne newspaper, $163.80. Indiana American Water, $482.98 for the Marsh property. Great Craft Signs of Warsaw is, if you haven't driven by our development sign for the old Owens, that's what that's for, $17.25. You'll see the Owens development sign is up. Barnes and Thornburg for $4,378.50 is for ongoing legal services for all of the work that we've been working on, i.e. the lease agreements, the GACI project and so forth. And then the next two, the 124.4 and the 500,000 are just reinvestment of bond holdings. So every bond, not as much now, but in the past, when you would do a bond, you'd have to have certain coverage that would be held back. So we're sitting on those for 20 years, so those are being invested. So we put those into investments. At the end of that bond issuance, they'll be used to make the last payment. Dilling Group, $15,750. This was for their assessment of the Marsh building. So they did a roof assessment, HVAC assessment. They fixed any issues with the roof. They checked all the water lines to make sure there wasn't any issues with the building as per the contract we approved a couple months ago. And then Quills just supplies for the office, $206.91. So, and then the additional claim, another one for our annual administration fee for the Winona PVD bond of $250 from Huntington National Bank.
On the American Water, they reference, they have some charges in there for, I lost it. The property at 432 South Buffalo. You know what the heck that is? I mean, 500 was the Marsh building.
Yeah, there's actually 3 addresses there, so there's
I was wondering that myself.
the Marsh building, and then there's 2 additional units.
Right.
Where the
Oh,
Chinese restaurant
on the
used
north
to
end of
be,
the, north end of the
So the
building.
Chinese,
There was
and
a
then there
salon
an
there, I
office
think.
or something. Yeah, the salon, whatever.
and there was a realtor
Yeah.
office there at one
So
time.
there's 2 different units there.
Okay.
So it's 3 they were all metered separately.
Yeah, looks like it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to pull that up and I couldn't find anything on it. And there was something else. On the legal fees,
Yes.
there was mention of that Barnes and Thornburg bill. There was quite a bit of time, Randy, related to KEDCO, talking to his attorney. What in the world are we?
It's the Owens project.
I understand that. What's the problem? It's listed as in the land, in the KEDCO
Land trust.
land trust.
Yeah, so we have our development agreement that we approved with Anderson and Partners, Millworks. And then they have an economic development that they have to approve with Millworks. And so it's just trying to commingle those two so that they work in tandem. If that makes sense.
What was the loan referenced?
So you probably don't remember this because it's been a few years.
Probably
But
not then.
The state, and it's not, yeah, so the state did this, gosh, what did they call that? I don't know if you remember, Jeff. It's like they went around and they wanted communities to partner with industry, which we partnered with Zimmer, and we submitted an application and we were awarded this,
Yeah.
and I don't want to say money because it turned out, the initial indication was that it was going to be a grant, and then it turned out it wasn't a grant. They wanted to loan us the money, and it's kind of like, well, so that's what that is. So it's a low-interest loan
To who?
to a developer that's backed by the corporation for housing.
Okay.
I wish I could say it's a great idea, but personally, I think it missed the mark, and I think the state, matter of fact, I think we're the only ones to this point are even trying to use it. I think the rest of them threw it in the trash can. But don't mark my words on that, but it's been a struggle to figure out how to use this program that the state came up with
Legally.
legally. Yeah, but that's what that is.
Just over the Owens property.
Yes. Well, it's not, it's more because the developer wanted to use that money as part of the incentive package that we're giving him on the Owens project for pre-development costs, i.e. design costs and so forth. It's just been a struggle to get through the state to get that money to a position where they can use it, if that makes sense.
Does that include the sewer problem, that one underneath there, under that ground? Is that
Well,
a
I mean,
separate issue?
they could use it for whatever they want. It has to be paid back. Like I said, when we went through this whole thing, it was like, oh, this is a great idea, right? You get a community partner, i.e. an industry partner that needs housing, workforce housing. That's what it was. It was like workforce housing and, I can't remember, but it was a workforce housing project through the state. And it seemed like the intent was, we're gonna give money to corporations that will partner with municipalities to create workforce housing. Great. We applied, and then we get in the first conversation, the first meeting we have with them is, okay, and we're gonna loan you this money. Well, okay, who's gonna pay the interest on that one? And what benefit is it to the developer that they're already getting loans? They already gotta go out and,
What kind of incentive is that?
what kind of incentive is it? And it's like, oh, well, it's a low interest loan. Okay, but it's gotta be paid back. Oh, yeah, and we want it to be paid back in 3 years. Okay, well, that's not even a long-term financing. So I could go into this for hours, and quite frankly, if it was me, I probably would have crinkled it up and thrown it in the trash and moved on. To their credit, Kedco has put a lot of time and energy in this, and I'm not trying to badmouth what they've done. I just think the state really did not do a very good job putting this together. But they've worked very hard to find a way to use this money, and the developer wants to use it, and so we're trying to make that happen.
Well, it just kind of jumped out at me because you got a couple hours of very expensive attorney talking to Kedco's attorney.
Yeah, and they've put a lot of effort into this, and, you know, for the state's benefit, I hope we can figure out how to turn their crap program into something good, because that's quite frankly what it is. It was a crap program.
Okay.
So
Don't
is your
put-
question, why are we
don't
paying
publish
the
that.
bill for somebody else?
Well, I just wondered why are we involved with that deal with Kedco and their attorney and over the transfer of land?
Trying to figure out how to make it work. Because on top of all that, I don't know how deep in the weeds we want to go. On top of all of this, the state wanted to use the property as collateral for the loan. Well, the developer has to use the property to get the loan for
They
the.
need it as collateral.
Yeah,
So everybody's using it as collateral.
it's been very frustrating.
And it's actually under ownership of Kedco, or one of their divisions,
The land trust.
the land trust, which is Kedco. That land trust is part of Kedco. Trust me.
Yeah, I know.
Try to look it up,
But
though.
it's not supposed to. But anyways, the point is, a lot of effort has gone into trying to figure out how to use this program that the state
Yeah.
has created.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure that it was quite worth it, but if at the end of the day, the developer wants to use it, it's to his benefit and we can make it work. I think that's the effort that's been behind it, mainly led by Kedco, trying to make this thing work.
Okay.
Before we call for a vote on these, I see we are being charged by Indiana American Water for our building
Yep.
down here. Do they have a minimum that we have to pay?
Yep, and that's what we're paying. But we're not really
And-
using water.
in the
I think they
fine
probably
print,
used a little bit of water when they were doing all the testing the pipes and making
Well, I
sure.
saw we
didn't have
It was
used
a connect-
35 gallons.
any- Yeah,
So
but
you
most
connect-
of it is that minimum fee.
It was listed like connection fee, it was not. just be
Because it
connected.
has,
Okay.
it has a
And
fire
Fire
suppression system.
suppression system was in that,
Yeah,
and
Which
to
is
be
where the-
connected to that with that much pressure. you have to
I
have-
get it, it's like a conveyance fee for the
What
sewer
did
system.
you say was the 124,000 for the
So the-
new investment?
124.4 and the 500,000 are, so the bond set aside, so every time we issue a bond, you have a percentage that's covered,
Yep,
a backup.
yep.
So that money sits there, it has to be there until the bond expires,
So you-
and we usually use that for the last payment. So we've been working with, years ago, Baker Tilly came in and said, hey, we're gonna give you guys some financial services, some help, explain to you what you can and can't do. So that money goes into rolling investments of 12 to 18 months, depending on where the interest rates are at. So we receive some investment legally that we can receive off of those. And then we get to choose where that money goes back. And
So it's not necessarily a new investment.
no, so these just
This-
rolled off. We made 22,000 some dollars.
Well, the
in
voucher
interest.
needs to be more explicit, because it's written up as a new investment, and
That's
I
what,
take exception to that. It's
would you
not.
tell Lynn that? Because that's probably what she.
I'll be
which is
glad
an
to.
investment. Because that's
What
what
you
she
gonna do,
would.
fire me?
That's the way she wants it now. I can talk to Lynn if you want something else on. I'm sure we can. This is probably what Lynn wants on there, but if there's something else you want on there, we can.
Well,
Maybe it should be renew.
yeah, renew the investment.
Well, technically, we're not renewing it because it'll be a different investment.
Oh,
Well-
The investment's
But-
always changing depending on the market. It's either interest rates are up, interest rates are down.
But then it should be reinvested, not a new investment. It's not a new investment, it's a reinvestment,
Yep.
taken from one place, putting it in somewhere else. Just, I know that sounds picky, but it is.
Come on, Whitney.
That's the way
They actually wrote
the
these plans, I
documents
did not,
ought to
so.
be explicit to us and everybody that runs into this.
I will talk to the clerk's office. They put these claims together. We do not.
In fact, all of these vouchers, all have that purchase new investment. I know what?
So, yeah, but that is what that is, so.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, so.
Yeah, that set aside money has to be reinvested.
I think it was either, I think it was an 18-month investment that yielded $22,000 for the last 18 months.
Good. Good.
It'll get reinvested,
Yeah. Yeah.
reinvested, not a new.
I'm all for that.
Okay. It'll get
Reinvest.
reinvested into that, whatever that
Into
money
it.
market fund, that,
Whatever.
whatever we legally find out money market, some CD or whatever.
Right.
Um,
You're limited on
You're
what.
limited on what you can invest in, yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's all the claims.
That's all the claims. Okay. Before we go any further, we probably ought to approve these. Does anybody have any questions beyond what we've already tied up everybody for?
No, I'll
Comments?
move. If not, you,
no, I'm good.
all right, then I'll make a motion we present, or we accept the claims as presented, including the one for Huntington Bank, if that's all right.
Anyone? Yes. So George makes a motion to approve all the claims as presented, including the new one add-on. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Bill makes a second.
Yay!
So, are there any further questions, changes, comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion. Motion is approved. Pay all the claims as presented. Okay. Anything else?
Jeremy, can you give us a quick report on what Dilling found at the building? Is it in pretty good shape, better than we thought, worse than we thought?
It's an old building.
Okay.
That's new. I get it.
I'll send you their little report. I did send it to, our partner Ram Development, so they have those.
Okay.
Uh,
Does that bill actually pay for some of these?
Yeah, so it paid for any, so they had a certain
That
cap
roof,
in there.
we had-
They had some caps in there, some roof leaks they would patch.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if the roof needed to be replaced, they aren't gonna replace the roof.
Right.
But, so it, basically, the intent of it was to patch any bad spots, to make sure we're not damaging anything. You know, if there's anything that was gonna get damaged, we wanted to make sure that was fixed. If there were water lines break, fix the water line so it doesn't continue to cause damage and so forth. So they did all that. There was a few leaks that they, patched, probably a little bit more than what they thought